episode of the Loor Entertainment Podcast. I'm Andrew Southwick. Thanks so much for all of you for checking out this episode of the show and past episodes of the show as well. We've got so much going on today. Of course, our guest today, Loor CEO. So he's the man. And also, I came up with this line. I don't know if it's funny, but I'm going to use it anyway. If his facial hair were an element, his face would be on fire. None other than Marcus Pittman. Marcus, thanks for hanging out with us today.
You got me on the bad beard day. It's all over the place today and not going anywhere. But
right on. That's okay, man. I would always have a bad beard. I'm not a facial hair person, but I try to have this sort of like Strider or Aragorn from Lord of the Rings scruff thing. But now that I'm 43 and I'm starting to see the grays coming in, so now I'm gonna have to be careful about that. But
yeah, this is the beard of someone who is running a startup technology company in the early days of launch.
That's awesome. This will be your Jeff Bezos in the garage with Amazon written on cardboard above him kind of pictures, man.
You gotta have it, man. And then eventually I'll be able to get the Elon Musk implants, Like
oh yeah, I can't wait for that day. Did you hear that? I guess there's already a human test subject for that. Did you see that?
Oh no, you're talking about for the Neuralink.
Yeah,
the brains. I was talking about like Elon actually got hair transplant.
Oh,
but
I see.
I'm excited about the Neuralink. I know a lot of Christians are weirded out about it, but I think it's going to be great. Just what it can do for people with Parkinson's and stuff could be like miraculous. So I'm very in favor of new technology. I know most of the time Christians are fearful of technology. That's what makes it so hard to run a technology company as a Christian, because most people are afraid. But I'm a futurist. I love all that stuff. And I think all technological advancements just help further the kingdom. So
I'm just like, as long as it doesn't fall into the hands of the brain from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Megatron or something like that, like that's all I'm looking out for, because that is who would get it in our crazy cartoon world. Anyway, all right. Well, we're talking today about a new release on Loor.tv, Loor.tv. In fact, let me get my little inviting ticker going here. Subscribe today, Loor.tv, Loor.tv. Oh, before I get here, I want to, for at least as of the production of this episode, the first episode of The Psalter just was funded, and that's available on Loor. And I just interviewed Cody Halford. I know that interview is coming up, or maybe it already has by the time this one will air.
Did you interview him post-funding?
What's that?
Did you interview him post-funding?
I interviewed him pre-funding, pre-funding, like 2 weeks ago.
It's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. Like, it just kind of happened suddenly. Mm-hmm. There's somebody bought like the $500 gold loot pack and threw it all on the Psalter, and it pushed it to like 90%. And then everybody got excited and started just funding it. And they got it like another 10% in like less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Just really prove the model works, prove that it works. And the funding of content really is the goal. And then, and like Cody Alford's, like, it's a short film, but it just shows you that the possibility for Loor when we're funding feature films and big motion picture television series.
And it shows you that where did I hear this? I think it was on Dan Bongino's show, but he talks about how it's not the first guy on the dance floor that starts the trend. It's the second and the third guy on the dance floor that start to do it. And so, and then everybody else joins in, and all of a sudden you have, you're doing the end of Grease, right? So that's really what, but that does work. And that happens in other spheres. We're proving that as a model for Loor and a model for filmmaking through Loor and Loor.tv. And we see that now in real time with the Psalter. So I just want to give a shout out and congratulations there. And because we've got another series, American Live, which is a comedy series, a stand-up comedy. And right off the top, let's get the controversy out of the way right now, and then we'll move on to the show.
Controversy? I haven't heard anything.
Oh, there's gonna be if there's not already. Come on now. But I think when's the It's debuting. It's not out today, is it? Well, by the time people see this, it'll be out already. But
it debuts tomorrow. But so when this comes out, it'll already be available to watch.
All right. But the official debut day is September 22nd.
Yeah.
This will be out a little after that. So it's already out now. You can already see it. But what you will see, though, one of the things, right at the top, it's an adults special. And we've got the new rating system on Loor and all that debuted a little bit ago. But it's adult. So while it's not going to be graphic sex and nudity and all these things, because that's part of Loor's parameters, and not to include those things, it does have coarse language and the topics are risque and things of that nature. And I mean risque in terms of edgy, in terms of not what you would see at the church fundraiser, not what you would see at the picnic or the evangelistic event. Doesn't mean it can't be evangelistic, doesn't mean it can't be useful for kingdom terms. But look, it's not something that normally a Christian branded promotion or platform or a Christian branded company or community or church or whatever would put out. So first, Marcus, how did American Live get on your radar, and why are we okay with the truly edgy nature and content that people will find in American Live?
Yeah. Okay. So first, let's start off with how it came on our radar.
Yeah.
So me and Jason travel a lot for Loor. So we go meet with artists. We've gone, to New York City. A few times, Los Angeles a lot. So much that me and Jason travel so much that we have our own, we know which hotel we're going to go to when we stay somewhere, that sort of thing. Like, it's gotten to that point. I got the gold elite status on Marriott, that sort of stuff. So one of the things we started to do just to help with that routine and fill time, but not waste time, was we started to go to comedy clubs in the evenings when there was a show that made sense for us to be able to go to. And the reason we did that is because if you were to look around and you were to try to point to one thing or one institution that's probably most responsible for the transformation of American culture in the past 50 years, it's Saturday Night Live. There's probably no question about it. And I think Christians don't ever think really deeply about this stuff. It goes over their heads. But what Lorne Michaels is probably the most influential individual in the history of pop culture ever. And what he's done is he basically goes to improv comedy clubs. He finds the guys who he believes have what it takes, and then he hires them for pennies to be on Saturday Night Live, right? So the first year Saturday Night Live crew members, cast members are only getting it's like $1,000 a week. It's like the bare minimum to live in the vicinity of New York City, whatever that number is. And then he keeps them on for a few years, and then once they're on for a few years, they become a full-time cast member. So they're background cast, and then they're full-time cast, and then after they've been a full-time cast for a while, unless you're Kenan Thompson, you go on to do much bigger movies and TV shows, and you can become Adam Sandler, right?
Yeah, well, back in the day, it was the announcer, featuring that's the dude's name, featuring Tim Meadows, and then Tim Meadows was on for 1,000 years, and then he does some movies and that kind of thing. Chevy Chase, did that, and they launch him that way. But there is a progression of advancement for these comedians and these talented artists.
Then you see Tina Fey, who's probably being groomed to take over Lorne Michaels' spot. But she's a background producer, did 30 Rock, right? So, Amy Poehler, did Parks and Recreation. Steve Carell, who was not on Saturday Night Live, was working with Stephen Colbert, but the point is it all came from improv comedy, right? Colbert and Stephen Carell was doing improv comedy.
They were doing, people don't know this, they were featured players on the Taco Bell Dana Carvey show. Do you remember that show?
Yeah. That's a whole nother venue, which
also came out of Saturday Night Live, because Dana Carvey was Saturday Night Live.
Series is phenomenal on that. What's the name of that? What's the name of that series? I've seen it. I forget the name of it. But
which one?
The one about the Dana Carvey show.
It's what series?
There's a documentary. There's a documentary series about the Dana Carvey show. It's called Too Big to Fail.
Yeah, I saw that it was like on Netflix or something. It was really interesting.
Yeah, it's Hulu. It's phenomenal.
Hulu, yeah.
But it goes into that whole Dana Carvey leaving Saturday Night Live at the top of his game and doing the show on ABC right after TGIF. It's just that's really so. But anyway, it's all improv comedy, right? Like there's this stand-up comedy, underground comedy culture that is really at the core of pretty much all of entertainment. Even when you talk about dramatic actors, right? Robin Williams, you could go to, Adam Sandler is doing incredible drama, right? So like and now he's probably the wealthiest. They say Adam Sandler is the wealthiest Saturday Night Live cast member because of the studio, Happy Madison Studios, and his Netflix deals and all this stuff that he's transitioned. But anyway, the point is, it's right there with comedy, underground comedy. So me and Jason made the decision to start going to underground comedy shows. And we went to New York City. The Comedy Cellar is one of the most famous ones. And you go there and you walk in and the bodyguards take your phone. They put it in a sealed like FedEx envelope. And then the bodyguard signs his name over the seal. And then they take you to your table and the waitress asks to see your unbroken seal before the comedians come out. And sometimes that's because you have big names at the Comedy Cellar, like Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle will come and work on a set, and they don't want that getting out there before, they're special. But most of the time, we found it was because a lot of the comedy is not woke at all. And in fact, a lot of the worst comedians in these underground comedy cellars, comedy clubs are the woke comedians. The woke comedians get booed, they get heckled, they get moans and groans, and then you have these just conservative comedians that are making, whether it's an anti-gay joke, anti-trans joke, or anti-woke joke, just all that sort of anti-Biden, right? Like they're getting the biggest laughs, and this is in the middle of New York City.
That I'll tell you what, man, that is true even on top level comedy. So just a quick aside to add credence to your point. My son, big Jim Gaffigan fan. We've always liked the Jim Gaffigan specials and stuff. He is hilarious. His latest special, have you seen it? It's came out on Amazon, I think.
I might have.
My son was totally turned off. He opens it up with all the wokeness and how all the unjabbed people are going to die and that kind of thing. And my son was just like that. I'm fine if you want to tell jokes about that, but you're just insulting me. That's dumb. So he didn't even watch the rest of the special. But to your point of woke comedy doesn't work, woke culture doesn't work. And it's just not funny. And so even what you would call, like you were mentioning, anti-gay or anti-trans, it's not even that. It's really poking fun at the cultural absurdity of what we're led to believe by either media spouts and leaders and all this other stuff, and it's crying out to be made fun of. I interrupted. Continue.
No, yeah. So that was like the first immediate thing we saw, right? Mm-hmm. The gay comics were not getting big laughs, right? And all the people pushing LGBT stuff in their comedy were just not getting big laughs, It just became really self-apparent from New York to LA we went to Nashville. We walked into a comedy club, improv comedy club, and there's these big signs on the door that said, "This is a safe place for all people." This comedy club is a safe place for all people, and there's a big, rainbow flag on the door, and Jason made some jokes to the bartender about it being a safe place in a comedy club. And then the bar owner, the bartender just looks up and points at the gay flag. He goes, it's a gay owned club. And, it was the worst comedy show we've ever been to, because every now and then they would start to do like a really good anti-woke joke, but they would pull their punch. Like you could see it. Like they knew they're not allowed to do that there. And the audience felt it. It was just really weird and strange. So we can get into why that's funnier later, but just to try to go into the the point. Jason got connected with a conservative comedy booker named Sean Paul. And Sean Paul said, "Hey, I'm doing this comedy show in LA and you're going to be there at the same time. I'd love for you to come see our comedy show." So we walk into downtown LA in Burbank, which is, liberal movie studio, and it's sold out. There's people outside the door that can't get in because the whole comedy club is sold out for this conservative patriotic comedy show called American Live. And me and Jason watched it. We were there, we were in the audience, and it was one of the funniest comedy specials we've ever seen. Some of the funniest underground comedy we've ever seen. It was completely like the anti-vax jokes, anti-everything was there as part of this thing. And it was just hilarious. And the audience was just screaming, laughing at times. And we just thought that we were just witnessing something really crazy in the middle of a liberal town like Burbank in Hollywood in California. It's a sold out. And we felt that there was something there. Now, this is not a Christian event. This is not a Christian comedy club. This was a regular comedy club. And some of the comedians were Christians, some were not. Some of the jokes were definitely over the edge. But the point was, I think that in order for comedy to work, especially stand-up comedy, it has to be broadcasted live in a way that allows the comedians to fail. That's how you know if it works or not. And so what we wanted to do when we got the opportunity, when they were recording this and we came up with the deal to be able to put this on Loor, we knew that it wasn't going to be, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, my camera went out for some reason. But anyway, we knew that it wasn't going to be the most popular among the more separatist Christian crowds, I guess is the best way to put it. But we made the decision to go with it anyway, because somebody needs to take ownership of a movement in the country that's happening. It's the Christians need to be the ones that sees this thing happening and coming and sanctifying it with all its warts, right? Comedy is that way. Look, even with Christian comedy, like there's a difference between church comedy and Christian comedy. And I think like a lot of times we mistake the comedy of church comics as this is what Christian comedy is. But not, it's really not. And in most instances, a lot of the church comics don't want to do comedy that's acceptable in the church building, because it's just, it's not even clean comedy. It's neutered comedy, right? So it's above clean comedy.
Yeah.
And also, one of the comedians told us he's Christian, and he says basically, if I become a clean comic, I cease being a Christian comic. And if I become a Christian comic, I would have to cease being a clean comic. And what he means by that is that the expectations of a Christian comedian in comedy negates the ability to talk about homosexuality or transgenderism, because that's not, you get kicked out of churches for talking about those sort of subjects. So that's why he says, I have to basically tone down my Christianity and my comedy as a weapon if I become a church comic.
Well, even from the pulpit, even pastors, if pastors in many churches, if they talk about homosexuality, if they talk about transgender, they're hearing it from the congregations and sometimes led right out of the building. I want to show a couple of clips to give people an idea what we're talking about here, and then we can look at what we hope. And what you hope, I should say, this does, not just for Loor, but in terms of advancing the movement. So let's take a look at a couple of the clips here. This is vertical video, so I did not repurpose it for horizontal 16:9, all that good stuff. But nonetheless, here is one of them. Let's check this out.
Hey, people, everybody broke. The other day, I almost had enough for a gallon of gas. I was like 33 cents short. You ever be so broke you almost got enough for a gallon of gas? Give me 85 ounces on pump 3. I had to borrow some gas to get home. Excuse me, you gonna use all your gas? We got any Hispanics in the house? Hispanics, give it up for yourselves. They work hard, don't they? Hispanics was slavery. Slavery would have been over in 2 weeks. They would have been looking for unemployment. We got nothing else to build homes.
So he's got that comedian has an interesting story too, because he came from gang life and then God brought him out of that. And so that's an interesting story that he has. But let me show you one more here, because this one, I caught somebody in the audience who I know. Now, I've never met him in person, but I've never met anybody in person. I live in my garage like a nerd. So, let me show the clip and I'll point it out here. Here's another one from American Life.
I think the Transgender Athletic Scholarship Foundation, their motto is "Together we will win," every single time. Ladies and gentlemen, with us tonight is a recent scholarship recipient. Megan, would you please stand up? Yeah. And finally, I want to thank the Joe Biden Alzheimer's Foundation, where their motto is
that. So Megan there, I know who that is. I won't say his name here, but we met through a mutual friend eons ago. But it was weird as I was watching these clips, and I'm like, dude, there he is. I know who that is. I know who Megan is. Anyway, so that's a taste of what you'll see. There are some others, and if we have time at the end, we'll maybe play one more. But Marcus, I want to first of all, why do you think that this content then is a fit for Loor? And coming off of that, what do you hope it accomplishes in terms of not only growth for Loor, but in putting forward the overall message that Loor's platform in part is carrying?
Yeah, well, we want to use Loor to own the culture, right? To take it back. And part of that means you're going to get your hands messy. You're going to be a part of stuff that not everybody agrees with. But that's also why with Loor, you get the option to fund the next episode, right? You don't have to fund the next episode. And so one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to reach a broader conservative audience that has, turned their nose up to any time you say Christian or faith-based movie, just because the reputation is so bad. But also, these conservative comics are so skilled and so talented, and there's nowhere for them to go. They're way too politically incorrect to go on a conservative political streaming platform. And then they're not Christian enough to go on Dry Bar or PureFlix. They're not clean enough for Dry Bar, and they're not Christian enough for clean. I guess they're just not clean enough for any of those. So like that's sort of like the challenge is like, where can they live, and where can they build a name for themselves and work on their skills and their talents, and how can Loor be used as almost a Saturday Night Live sort of means to develop comics and send them out into the world, so that they can get a broad mainstream sort of following. And I think it's way more important for the Christians to be the ones who try to figure out and solve that problem than it is to just leave the vacuum and let other people come in and figure it out. And so I'd much rather take the risk on us for all the bad jokes than to give that to someone else. So that's why. We're as Christians, we're not called to be separatist. So if someone once told me, the gift of discernment means listening to things you don't agree with, right? It means you have to listen to things you don't agree with, or hear things that you don't like, so you can sharpen your skills of discernment. It doesn't mean to only listen to things that you agree with, So there is this implication that Christians are to be in the world, but not of the world. And that means owning culture and coming and taking it with all its messiness. And so that's sort of what we want Loor to be. And we want Loor to be the platform that if people go too far, then the audience will tell them, and the audience will fund the next episode. Right. So there's always that. And, it allows the free market to really make those decisions. So
let's take a look at one more clip here in our closing minutes, and then we'll wrap it up.
Bạn đi một tuần tao không gặp mày mà bụng mày vẫn tù lù. Please feel free to sing along if you know the words. Another guy told me he was a vegan. I say, vegan? I love Star Trek. I like white guys with blue eyes, but he must have two of them. Now I want to meet a man with a Tesla car. So every Friday night, I put on tight dress and hang out at the electric vehicle charging station.
My goodness, I like that clip.
I'm gonna tell you, she is. If you study comedy, like as an art form, she was probably one of the best writers there that night. Just like the complexity of her. I mean, first off, that is how she talks. We went up to her afterwards. I thought that was a character, but no, she like English is like literally her. Not her first language, and that is her real accent. And so to be able to write jokes that are quick one-liners at that quickness and that speed, with English being your handicap, is insanely talented. She's insanely talented, and and the jokes you can't understand are pretty good. So she's phenomenal. Nicole Tran is there. Just closing, it's Adam Yenser, writer for the Babylon Bee. He's actually on camera. Did a lot of man on the shoot stuff for Ellen on the Ellen show. He's the headliner of the show. It's just a really great comedy special. A lot of people, a lot of different varieties, but all under, not being leftist woke nonsense. So,
well, there you have it. American Live, first episode available now on Loor.tv. And we encourage you to put your loot behind American Live. I mean, there's so many things, obviously, to put your loot behind, and every filmmaker, even Loor itself, Marcus, the whole gang, we're grateful that you put your loot behind all these projects. And as Loor grows, they're going to be able to be funded quickly. They're going to be able to reach all different versions and niches within the broader Loor audience. And so everything is just getting off the ground now. But American Live, again, episode 1 available right now on Loor.tv, Loor.tv. Marcus, any last words before we wrap up?
Just invite your friends to join, and let's continue to grow and be able to fund projects faster. Yesterday, when everybody was funding the Salter, you could see the episode live ticking up and funding live. It was really cool to watch. And I think like just the future of what that'll be when you see that at scale is going to be tremendous. Watching episodes fund almost in real time is going to be really great.
Yeah, this is a movement, and all of us, not just Marcus, those of you on the Loor leadership and founding side, or those of us on the media communications side, like with the podcast, but all of us Loor subscribers are a part of this movement, and it is making history. And hopefully, Lord willing, I believe it will. It's going to make that history, and it will change filmmaking and entertainment, especially when it comes to faith-based or base faith entertainment, as it were, for decades and decades to come. So, Marcus, thank you for being on the show today. For Marcus Pittman, I'm Andrew Southwick. This has been the Loor Entertainment Podcast, and we'll see you next time.